was, oh, did you have something to imbibe? That helps. The Black comic I liked, the first guy, I liked him, but I thought he went a little too far in some ways for me, just as a general audience. Um, I'm no prude anyway. Then the second guy was so hyper that Roger just wasn't into it, and I was okay. I was okay to go ahead and leave, so we left after a few minutes. But I enjoyed the evening a lot, and our dinner was wonderful. Is it first? Oh, Virgo. No, I'm thinking about Tony. I'm thinking about Anthony back there, I guess.
Okay, good morning. And I want you to say good morning back to me, but I want you to raise your hands or snap your fingers and say it's good to be alive. Good morning. Ready? Good to be alive. Good morning. You are such a beautiful group. Welcome. My name is Joseph Fenty, and I'm going to be your associate for the service of the Unitarian Universalists of Charlotte County. We are a Big Ten fellowship where diverse people can gather in community and pursue social justice. We begin our service each week by singing an invitation to gather together even as we are scattered in many different places. This service is actually being broadcast on YouTube and will be available on the UUFCC YouTube channel after the service. So, your patience will be appreciated as there is a slight delay at the end to close down the YouTube connection. So I'd just like to remind you of a few simple procedures. Now would be a good time to put your phone in its sleep mode, and I will remind you at the end of the service to turn it back on. For those of you at home, please get your chalice ready so that it's available when we light the chalice. Few announcements. We ask that you socially distance as appropriate and use masks in the sanctuary when socializing. Many in our county are still becoming infected with COVID, so let us be cautious. If you are having respiratory symptoms, please limit your contact with others. My gratitude for those that are making this service possible include Corey and Tom. Shout out for Corey and Tom. Thank you. You guys are fantastic. Appreciate you very much. You have new toys to play with, so that's always fun. And I'd like to thank the building and grounds people, folks that decorate the pulpit today. Would you raise your hand? Where are you, Laura? Sue. Cheryl. Yeah, this is beautiful. This is absolutely beautiful. I appreciate that. The membership committee and the greeters today, and of course Mary, Jane, and Sandy, who are doing fantastic works behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, what have you. So, whatever your faith or lack of faith, or the country of your heritage, you are welcome here. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. And whether you entered on little feet or walked in briskly or ambled or rolled in, you are welcomed here. Whether you are relatively new to our community or have been here for some time, for decades, you are welcome here. We're glad you chose this congregation as your place of renewal and connection. If you are new here or returning from a long time away, please stand and body your spirit or wave, state your first name, where you're from, so that we can welcome you. Any newcomers today? I see some new faces. Okay, so let's start with the lady that has the shirt that says human. I love the shirt.
I'm Beth Davis.
Yes, thank you. Where are you from?
Punta Gorda.
Okay, excellent. Say hello to Beth. Okay, the couple next to Beth. Your names?
I'm Leslie.
I'm Brent.
We're from Hamilton,
Ontario.
Ontario.
Woo! We love our Canadian friends. Thank you. And yes, in the back.
I'd like to introduce, I'm Mary Holly. I'd like to introduce my longtime friend, over 40 years, Bonnie from, she's at UU in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Whoa, yeah.
Bonnie, thank you for visiting us. Welcome to Florida. It's so cold in the Northeast right now. We're setting record temperatures, so we have to embrace all of our northern friends with big warm hugs. Okay. So, if you are new at home or new here and you would like to learn more about the fellowship, you can contact Mary Jane at the following email address. It's office@uufcc.org, or visit our webpage at uufcc.org. And wherever you are, we are glad you have chosen to spend your time with us this morning. Now we will have the prelude. It's just gorgeous. I love the prelude. It puts me in a sublime state of mind. This is so good. Thank you so much. We will now open this venerated space by turning our attention to the chalice and the words of Katie Gelfin, the Director of Religious Exploration and the First Unitarian Church of New Orleans. We light this chalice as a symbol of our gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. In the sanctuary, we harvest bushels of strength for one another and offer our crop with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connections, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the ways we nourish and uplift others, for it is in the sharing of this hallowed time together that sustains us. And now, Pat, I always call him Pat because he sits in the front row. Pat, would you light our chalice? So we light our chalice. Please join us in reciting our affirmation. Shortly, there will be time to light your chalices at home. Love is the spirit of this fellowship, and service is its law. This is our aspiration, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. Thank you. You did an excellent job. I invite you now to light your chalices at home or candles. Next, we will have a hymn. Here we are gathered, gray hymnal number 360. Okay, I have the opening words for today, and this is by Amanda Papel. The poem is called The Home That Love Made. This is the home that love made. It is full of the love the founders felt. And when they planned out these walls and raised these beams above us, this is the home that love made. It is full of the love of all who have worshiped here, those who have celebrated and grieved here, the babies dedicated, the couples married, and the family members mourned here. This is the home that love made. It is full of the love of our children as they learn and laugh together, and our youth as they grow into their sense of purpose and meaning. This is the home that love made. It is full of the love of the staff who have served it, full of their hopes for this congregation and their hard work and their acts of dedication. This is the home that love made. It is full of the love of the choir, the love made so clear in the voices lifted here on Sunday morning. This is the home that love made. It is full of our love, the love of this community, despite our differences and our disagreements, the love that holds us together as a people. This is the home that love made. Can you feel it? May, yes. May the love be with us always. Amen. We have a long tradition at UUFCC of sharing our joys, sorrows, and life milestones by entering them in the Book of Life. These messages can be written in the red book at the back of the sanctuary. John, since you're sitting so close to the red book, would you mind bringing it forward? Thank you. Being in the right place at the right time always helps. Thank you. Those at home are welcome to mail your entries to the Book of Life at UUFCC.org. Messages should be sent no later than Saturday prior to the service. All entries will be read by the worship associate on Sunday morning, and after that, emailed messages will be entered into the actual book. So after I read these messages, there will be a moment of silence. Okay, we have lots of entries today, February 5th. Please help me in wishing Helen a very happy birthday. It's wonderful. She is an angel on earth, Lori. No, it's so sweet. My daughter Katie's partner, Jeff, is very sick. But despite the cancers that he is experiencing and horrible pain, he is still fighting. I will be in Richmond with them for the next 10 days. Dennis Shaw. This week, Debbie and I celebrate Dweeb. How do I say this? Deeb, sorry. Deeb, thank you. And I celebrate 51 years anniversary. Not bad for a marriage everyone said wouldn't last. And this is from Kay Azar. Sorry. Janet M. is grateful for her mom, who is celebrating her 95th birthday. Janet. Great. And on this day, I am celebrating a special person as well. Well, my daughter came to visit me yesterday. We had a nice lunch, so that was a wonderful time for me. And it is a special birthday for me. I don't know if you know this, but Charles Darwin was born. this month. And actually, his birthday is going to be on Super Bowl Sunday. So it's somebody to remember. For me, he was actually, he has a connection to Unitarians. He and his siblings attended the Unitarian Church in England. And he went on to be one of the most widely regarded and influential scientists in history. And my connection to UU is actually through Darwin, because when I was in Ann Arbor, the first talk I ever attended was about a book called The Beak of the Finch, and it's about Darwin's research in the Galapagos Islands. And I thought, how intriguing, how interesting. So there is a birthday cake for Charles Darwin, and he's not here to blow out the candles, but I do appreciate him. I'll always think fondly of him, and also we can celebrate all the other birthdays that have happened this month by having a slice of cake as well. So that is available to you. So, okay, so let's move on to our meditation. May we hold these and our unspoken joys and sorrows in our heart. May we also hold one another in love and tenderness, so that this fellowship may be a source of strength and comfort, courage and hope in the days and weeks ahead. Let's take a moment of silence. I'll bring you back with the ringing of the bowl. That brings me a lot of joy. I don't know why. Okay, we will now have a song, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place, Teal Hymnal number 1008.
Blessed with love.
Okay, now it's time for our sermon, which will be delivered by Dennis Shaw. Dennis Shaw serves this congregation as the president of the board, and he is been a UU member for 40 plus years. So looking forward to hearing Dennis.
Just a moment to get settled. It's a real honor to speak from this pulpit again. I want to thank you. For over a year, our worship committee has been subscribing to a monthly periodical, Soul Matters. Each month, we receive through these publications a theme and inspirations for worship services and small group discussions. The theme of February 2023 edition is The Path of Love, and I've entitled these reflections First Steps on the Path of Love. Before I started, I wasn't surprised by the editor's choice. For after all, February is officially the month to celebrate groundhogs and love. But after reading the issue, I was motivated to focus on the phenomenon of love. I decided to write a love story to share with you. But before I started working on your Valentine message, I decided I needed to search for St. Valentine's identity. I knew nothing about this man we celebrate every February 14th. Valentine was a very popular name in ancient Rome, and there are at least 50 stories about different saints by that name. Perhaps the most popular of these myths is that Valentine was a 3rd century priest who performed secret Christian weddings against the wishes of the Roman authorities. He was caught and imprisoned in the home of a noble. During his imprisonment, he cured the noble's daughter's blindness. In response, the entire household converted to Christianity, and this sealed Valentine's fate before being tortured and decapitated on February 14th. He sent the girl a note signed, "Your Valentine." Valentine's Day did not become associated with love until the Middle Ages, thanks to poet Geoffrey Chaucer. In the late 1300s, Chaucer wrote a poem entitled Parliament of Fowls. That contained this line, "For it was on St. Valentine's Day when every bird comes here to choose his mate." Chaucer and other poets of this period celebrated romance between knights and noble ladies who could not marry, often because the damsel was already wed. By the 1400s, nobles inspired by Chaucer began writing poems known as valentines to their love interests. It was only at this point that stories began to emerge linking St. Valentine to romance. Now, uncovering this history created second thoughts about the theme of this morning's reflections. I reasoned that love has to be one of the most overused, misunderstood, and commercialized words in the English language. For example, I love milk chocolate, gardening, spaghetti, and afternoon naps. But surely the love I feel for candy, dirt, and pasta is not the same love I feel for my daughter, brothers, close neighbors, you, and especially my 8.5-pound Bosco. Then I remembered learning in a religious studies class in college that the ancient Greeks recognized that there were different forms of love. Without hesitation, I recalled the terms and definitions for eros and philia and agape, but the words and definitions used by ancient Greeks for other forms of love eluded me. So I turned to our in-house scholar, Sharon W., for help. And within hours, she emailed me an article from Yes magazine. It's entitled 6 Words for Love and Why Knowing Them Can Change Your Life. The article originally appeared in Sojourners by Roman Krasnaki. The first form of love was eros, named after the god of fertility, and referred to sexual passion and desire. And while our culture is addicted to this type of romantic love, the ancient Greeks thought of eros as dangerous, fiery, and irrational. Eros could take hold and possess one. As I reflected on my numerous experiences with eros, I realized that a more Greek sensibility would have saved me way too many heartaches. The word philia was used by ancient Greeks to define friendship. In their culture, philia was valued far more than the base sexuality of eros. Philia, the deep relationships that develop between friends, was a love which involved loyalty, sacrifice, and the sharing of one's deepest emotions. Another form of philia was called storge. This ancient word described the love that is embodied between parents and children. Ludus, a word that described playful love, was highly valued by the ancient Greeks. This term defined the love children feel with playmates. It also encompasses the flirting and teasing that is frequently present in early adolescence. The term agape was used to describe the most radical form of love. This was love that was extended to all people, whether family members or distant strangers. Agape was later translated into the Latin term caritas, which is the origin of our word charity. Agape is interpreted by Christians as unconditional love or God's perfect love. In Buddhism, agape is understood as universal loving kindness. Now, the use of ancient Greek root pragma is a form of love that describes mature, realistic love that is commonly found among long-established couples. Pragma involves making compromises to help the relationship work over time. It implies the use of patience and tolerance. However, there is little evidence that ancient Greeks commonly used this term, so it's best to think of it as a modern update. The Greek sixth variety of love was philadia, or self-love. Brilliant Greeks like Aristotle taught that there were 2 types of philadia, one being an unhealthy variety associated with narcissism, where the person became self-obsessed and focused on personal fame and fortune. Can you think of anybody that fits that description? The other form of philadia enhanced the person's capacity to love, which was based on the idea that if you like yourself and feel secure in yourself, you will have plenty of love to give others. The ancient Greeks found diverse kinds of love in relationships with a wide range of people, friends, family, spouses, strangers, and even themselves. As I was settling into one of my beloved naps, I wondered if I could expand my understanding of love into my own life. Then the plot for the following story evolved. My first conscious lesson about love occurred in Mrs. Kishner's first grade class at Central Elementary School on February 14, 1956. On that memorable day, 67 years ago, my classmates and I experienced our first Valentine's party. From the first day of school, I liked my classmates and I fell in love with Mrs. Kirshner. She was old, tall, and plump. Her long gray hair was always braided and pulled into a tight bun. She smelled sweet, like vanilla, and her wardrobe consisted of colorful, loose-fitting, long floral print dresses, and she always wore a thin silver necklace that secured a small silver whistle. Her voice was soft but capable of commanding attention of the most riotous 6-year-old. She was a master of classroom management, and yet she was remarkably kind and gentle, and occasionally she would reward a student with a big hug. I know that during the first year in school, we had parties, art projects, sang songs, and heard stories fitting the occasions of Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. But this was very unusual to me in that I have no memories of those parties or activities. But I remember Valentine's Day with really clear memory. My first conscious lesson about love occurred in Mrs. Kirshner's first grade elementary school, as I mentioned. And the first day, I really liked everybody that I met. Now, as we prepared for our first Valentine's Day party, the preparations began at least a week prior to the event. Mimeographed copies of a letter from Mrs. Kirshner were mailed to 22 mothers. It explained her plans for the party and the educational objectives she was addressing. These included following directions, reading, printing, as well as providing an opportunity to form an even tighter group identity. The letter also included a list of students' first names, a request for shoeboxes, and at least 24 homemade or inexpensive Valentine's cards with matching envelopes, and the latter were readily available at the local Woolworths 5 and 10. The letter concluded with a long list of moms who volunteered to provide refreshments, extra cards, and boxes. These extras were requested to cover those who could not participate. My mother, Laverne Shaw, in her role as grade mother, topped the volunteer list. A few days before the party, I boarded the school bus at the bottom of Patterson Hill, carrying a large shopping bag packed with my Howdy Doody lunchbox and 3 empty shoeboxes. And I can clearly remember my mother yelling, "Do not drag the bags in the snow." Late that afternoon, Mrs. Kirshner, with the assistance of at least half a dozen mothers, helped 22 first graders create their first Valentine boxes. Sharing jars of gooey paste, we carefully adhered red and white tissue paper with up and down the bottoms and the sides of the boxes. Then we printed our first names on the bottom of the box. The separated tops and bottoms that were then paired and placed on the radiator cover where they would dry overnight. Mrs. Kirshner cut a narrow rectangular opening on each box early the next morning. That afternoon, each child was given several sheets of pink, red, and white construction paper. Following Mrs. Kirshner's example, we folded the construction paper in half. Next, we were instructed to put our pencils a few inches from the top of the paper's crease and draw what looked like a capital C that suddenly changed its mind and grew a tail. And the tail ended at the bottom of the crease. Then with blunt-edged scissors, we cut along the penciled line. When we finished cutting, I opened the folded paper to discover a heart. It still amazes me that given the same materials and instructions, all the hearts created that afternoon were different. Some were short and fat, and others were skinny and tall, but nonetheless, they were all hearts. Then, with repeated warnings that paste was not food, we were free to glue hearts all over the boxes and return them to the radiator shelf. The night before Valentine's Day, using the mimeograph letter as a guide, I addressed 21 envelopes, printed my name on the back of each card, and when completed, I realized I didn't have a card for my beloved teacher. My mother came to my rescue and provided necessary materials to make a very special Valentine's card. I remember the cardboard collage created on the lid of last year's heart-shaped chocolate box. It even included scraps of real dark red velvet and white lace. These were scraps from my mother's homemade Christmas dress. Then I dictated what I wanted to tell my teacher. Copying from my mother's model, I printed on the back of the card, "Dear Mrs. Kirshner, thank you for being my teacher. I love school and I love you, Denny." The collage was too large to fit into an envelope, so I wrapped it in leftover Christmas paper, which I secured with lots of masking tape. I felt great satisfaction when my creation was finally completed and delivered. The next morning, February 14th, 1956, Mom, Dad, older brother Billy, and younger brothers Bobby, Jimmy, and Tommy, and I climbed into our two-tone white over blue Bel Air, and after dropping Dad off at the steel mill, Mom maneuvered the Chevy through the unplowed snow to the top of Patterson Hill, where the three youngest Shaw boys were left under the care of old Grandma Rogers, our usual babysitter. Finally, Mom drove Bill and I to school. Following a short conversation with Mrs. Kirshner, Mom kissed my forehead and left. It was then that I realized that my family's morning routine had been completely rearranged so my mother could help stage a Valentine's party for Mrs. Kirshner's first graders. It was the first time I consciously felt such intense family love and pride. It was also during these precious moments I witnessed the birth of a friendship between a grade mother and a gifted teacher that lasted for decades. That Valentine morning crawled along with unsurprised adventures of Dick and Jane and Sally and Spot. And then there were printing, we had to print vocabulary words. Of course, there were several bathroom breaks. And then a surprise. Instead of a challenging arithmetic lesson, Mrs. Kirshner gathered us together for one of her special stories. The story was illustrated with watercolor and pen drawings. It was a love story about a boy and a girl who did not have money to buy their mother a Valentine's card. So instead, they thought of all the things that they could do to help their mother, and they did those chores. The story ends with a big sister-brother-mother hug. I later learned from my mother that Mrs. Kirshner wrote and illustrated these stories about helping, caring, and building positive relationships in community. While we were eating lunch, I was angered when I discovered that Mom forgot to include a dessert. Then we were released to run, swing, scream, and play on the asphalt playground. Finally, Mrs. Kirshner appeared at the door, blew her silver whistle, indicating it was time to line up and return to our classroom. In our absence, several moms had strung crepe paper streamers, taped red, pink, and white balloons to the windows, and formed a heart in the center of the blackboard with red Christmas lights. Mrs. Kirshner's desk had been transformed with a red and white heart-covered tablecloth, and in the center was a large punch bowl filled with strawberry Kool-Aid and dozens of devil food cupcakes frosted with pink icing and red crystallized sugar. I immediately recognized these as my mother's contributions and felt a twinge of guilt for the bad things I thought when I discovered my lunchbox was dessertless. There was also a basket full of little boxes of candy hearts, which were imprinted with words like wow and love and hugs and even kisses. I know that Mrs. Kirshner was a master of classroom management, but I still can't imagine how she got 22 six-year-olds to correctly sort 462 Valentines into 22 decorated boxes. As the party ended, Mrs. Kirshner instructed us to take our Valentine boxes home spread their precious contents out on our beds. She warned if the boxes were opened on the bus, they would be soiled or lost. And that made perfect sense, even though I knew I wouldn't be traveling by bus on that special occasion. The first thing I did after arriving home was to count all the little envelopes. I knew from my activities the previous night that there should be 21, but there were 22. Wondering how this could occur, I drew 22 little faces and then erased me. Then I recounted, and there were still 22 cards in the box. Then I noticed one of the envelopes was larger than the others and made of a different type paper. So I opened it first. The card featured a rose with glittering petals, and it was from Mrs. Kirshner. I raced down the stairs into the kitchen where Mom was preparing supper. I showed her the card and asked her to read it to me. She immediately left the stove, and we sat down at the kitchen table. Dear Denny, I am so happy to be your teacher. You are bright, talented, and funny. I especially enjoy your artwork and funny stories. Maybe someday you will become a teacher. That would make me very proud. Sincerely yours, Mrs. Kirshner. Well, after a second reading, I had Mrs. Kirshner's words memorized, and I reread that card at least a dozen times before bed. But finally, it occurred that I didn't know what sincerely yours meant. Mom's response to my question was immediate. Yours truly means I'm telling you the truth. The next day, I learned that Mrs. Kirshner had sent a special Valentine card to each of her students. Each was different, but all included the phrase, sincerely yours. I did become a teacher and spent 32 years teaching students with significant communication challenges and preparing college and graduate students for the noble field of special education. One of the primary gifts I learned from Mrs. Kirshner is the importance of learning in a cohesive, caring group or community. I incorporated that goal into every class I ever had the privilege of teaching. Yeah, this photograph is one of my most precious possessions. I display it in my Aunt Dorothy's breakfast room china cabinet and bring it out every once in a while to remind me of my happy childhood. And on these occasions I take it out, it delights me that while the photograph is over 67 years old, I recognize every single face by first name. I will conclude my reflections on my first Valentine's Day with a quote I discovered in the Souls Matters material. It was written by Valerie Carr. Loving only ourselves is escapism. Loving only your opponent is self-loathing. Loving only others is ineffective. All three practices together make love revolutionary, and revolutionary love can only be practiced in community. Finally, dear friends and members of our precious UUFCC community, I want you to know that I'm sincerely yours until we meet again.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Yes. Sure. Yes. Now we will hear a musical selection from Jim. Thank you, Jim. Okay. In our tradition, congregations exist because of the generous support of members and friends. It is our privilege and our responsibility to ensure the health and future of this fellowship. To this end, your offerings supporting the ministry of this fellowship, whether by pledge or donation, may be offered online. There are several ways to give. You can drop your donation in the baskets that are being passed around by the greeters. Yes, thank you. And for those at home, you can mail your checks into the office, drop them in the mailbox, or you can even use Venmo. When making payments through this app, they should be made out to UUFCC offering. Your generosity is always appreciated. And now we will have our offering music. Gray Hymnal number 131. You can stand in body or spirit at this time. Thank you. Now for Life of the Community, we do post a lot of events that are going on here at UUFCC. If you're not presently getting those announcements, let the greeters know or any member of the membership team so that you can be fully informed and connected. So I'm just going to highlight a few things today. I'm going to highlight actually something that was in last week's update from Mary Jane. And you may or may not know, but there is an effort afoot to revise the principles and purposes. And the new diagram has love in the middle with the chalice, surrounded by these little petals, making something that looks like a flower. Interdependence, equity, transformation, pluralism, generosity, and justice appear as petals around the circle. And so this is actually encompassed in something called Article 2, Purposes and Principles, and this is the foundation of our work. It is a covenant to which all our congregations and covenant communities pledge themselves when they become UU members. So at General Assembly this summer, the delegates will have a chance to respond and work on the final proposal, which will be voted on at the GA in 2024. If you would like to be part of this work, please let the nominating committee know that you would like to be a delegate at the General Assembly in June, which will be on site in Pittsburgh and online for off-site delegates. So another announcement, charitable giving for tax reporting. If you need a statement, you can get that from the office. You can send an email to Mary Jane or to Sandy. We have a few announcements. There is a PFLAG meeting at 12 o'clock today. And, you know, there's the initiative to have this organization continue to run and function. So Please join the meeting if you have any interest so that we can continue to support this organization. The next announcement is Array, A-R-A-Y, presents Peace River Pride on Saturday, February 25th from noon to 7 p.m. UUFCC will have a booth there. A few more volunteers are needed to work the booth. See John L. if you are interested, and this is going to take place at the Gilchrist Park. And the next announcement will be offered by Mary Holly.
Good morning. It is about the auction, but I'm not K.A. Kay's been the committee chair, the leader of our auction for many years, and I think we owe her a great thank you for that, Kay. And she, of course, grabbed her team together and said, "You will be on the team." So I said yes. John L. John, can you just raise your hand so people know who you are? And Fred's our computer guru that makes everything work online, which is the first thing I want to ask you. Is there anybody that's been to the website? The auction, oh, okay, good. The auction website, which is www.peoplecomingtogether.net. What do you find there? You find an opportunity to post your article, your objects, if you have something you want to offer for the auction. I offered a rug that already went, and you can buy it immediately. You can find items to buy, or you can post items, and you can offer things that'll be ready to go now, or they will be happening. Now, when's the auction? Anybody know when the auction is? The 18th, next Saturday. It's coming quickly. 4:30. Two Saturdays. Sorry, Kay. Can't keep it together. 2 Saturdays. And it's going to be a fun time. And I want you to remember, it's a fundraiser one, but as important is a fun time. So there are no tickets being sold. You've heard this before, but we hope you've got it on your calendar and you're going to be here 4:30 to 6. It's going to go kind of quick. There's going to be a silent auction. There's going to be a break, and there's going to be snacks and food, and then dessert, and then the live auction. So plan on that night or that evening and be here. And now, if you're thinking about helping out, see John, Kay, me, Fred. But Fred's got a lot of volunteers already. There's a lot of people helping, but we can use more for that evening. There's people decorating on Friday afternoon. You might like to do that. And how about donations? Are you an artist? You may have a project that you've, an object, a painting that you want to offer for sale. You may want to offer a lesson. Are you a musician? You may want to offer a song at a party. I'm going to play. You want to have a dinner party? I'll come and be your little concert. You could offer that. You've heard Kay talk about food, and I've been thinking about that. Ben and I used to offer a big pool party. We don't have a pool anymore. We don't have a big house. We can't do that. But you could offer a small dinner party, or you could make a plate of fried chicken and have it delivered. Or there's just lots of little things you could do and you could offer to have community come together, maybe even time in the park. And I don't know, one year somebody had access to croquet. There's just think about what you love. And Dennis gave us lots of ideas in that beautiful sermon of things he loved. Think about what you love and you'd like to share with this community. And talk to us if you need some creative ideas for how to offer that for sale to make money for the church and for friendship and for love. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll end with a poem. And this is by, let's see, Jan Richardson. So I'll read it. It says, I can tell you that you will know the strange graces that fly to meet us, bearing comfort and strength, that come alongside us for no other cause than to lean themselves towards our ear, and with their curious insistence whisper our name, beloved. Now we will extinguish the chalice, but not the light of hope, the fire of commitment, or the warmth of community. Thanks, Pat. As you leave, for those who need a smooth surface to exit the building, feel free to exit out the double doors in the back. And you may enjoy the patio for social time, coffee, and cake. Now we will have our concluding song, Go Lift It Up, Deal Hymnal number 1057. Okay, go in peace and know that you are loved.